We often get the question about how appraisals and the market analysis done by a realtor, how those two things differ from each other. On a given property in a given period of time, they may come out with the same number, or they may come out with a slightly different number. They're not going to be wildly different, but they could be different. So a market analysis done by a realtor is less detailed than an appraisal. It's a snapshot in time, and very often when we give you a result from a market analysis, it will be a range. And the range is basically telling you, we think that your property will end up selling somewhere between this number and this number. And it'll help guide you in making a decision as to what price you want to list the property for. You may list it for more, slightly more than we think it's going to sell for, but not wildly more than you think it's going to sell for. In reality, the market value of your property is what someone ultimately is willing to pay for it. Now, the appraisal will be ordered by the buyer's lender after you have the property under contract. The appraisal will be very detailed. It may bring out some issues that a market analysis wouldn't. For example, periodically in these videos we've talked about FHA loans. If you're purchasing with an FHA loan, the appraiser will make note of things like peeling paint and will report that back as something that has to be corrected in order for the loan to be approved. The appraisal tells the lender what is the current value as of that day for this property. And what the lender wants to know is there enough equity in that property to cover the value of the loan that they're making to you? That's the collateral for the loan, is the value of the property. So the lender, even perhaps more so than you, has a big investment in knowing what that appraised value is going to be. Who pays for it? The buyer pays for it, as long as it's done as part of the mortgage approval process. Occasionally, sellers, especially if you have a property that is very unusual and it's hard to price, we may suggest that you have an appraisal done before putting the house on the market, just so you know what to expect and to aid us in making the list price. But usually it's done by the buyer's lender once the house is under contract. Now, even a buyer who's paying with all cash, I will usually advise to have an appraisal done anyway, even though you don't need it for your loan. Have the appraisal done to make sure you don't overpay for the property. You don't want to pay $200,000 for a property and find out after the fact it was only worth $190,000 and you're basically short $10,000 in equity. So it's worth having. Always, I recommend to my buyers, and I've never had anyone disagree with this yet, is that we include an appraisal rider with the purchase contract. That appraisal rider says that if the appraisal that is done as part of your purchase says that the property is worth less than what you've agreed to pay for it, that you have a few days to negotiate with the seller for a lower price, and if the seller won't agree to a lower price, to actually get out of the contract and get your deposits back. You don't have to exercise that option, but you would have that option. So I always recommend that we build that option into your purchase contract. That's pretty much the difference between the appraisal and the market value. It's not clear cut, but I hope I've helped to make a little bit more sense to you. If you have any further questions about this or anything else, please feel free to email me at realtormargaret@bhhsne.com. I look forward to communicating with you.